Hey everyone, I'm back. It's me, Shannon, and I'm here for another episode of Was I in a Cult? Part 4. Okay, so I'm gonna kind of talk in code for a minute here, and I hope you understand. Think of what types of groups that try to control or dominate a city that cause havoc and do bad things. Also think of groups that were living in situations that weren't the greatest. Think of people who get in trouble with the law. Also think about teen runaways and kids that are running amok in the streets. Basically, this is the type of people that this particular church reached out to. Okay? So I said it all in that way because I know that TikTok has, regulations on things that you can say and ways that you can say it. So I hope that you understood. I feel like I was playing Pictionary without the pictures. But I hope you understand what I was trying to say. Anyways, this movie was basically about a story about this type of life that was leading down a destructive path, if you might say. And at the end of the movie, these preachers come out to these people and they are starting to talk to them about God and talk to them about giving their lives over to Jesus. And basically they end up, saying the prayer and just, giving their lives over to God. And then it shows how they leave those other lifestyles and choices that they were making before, and how now they're living just this great, beautiful, amazing, happily ever after life, basically. And so this is kind of how this movie portrayed or introduced themselves as a ministry and church to the people that came and attended this event. Okay, and then when the movie was over, obviously they did a live altar call where they actually had people within the audience come up and get prayed for, which I had already been prayed for at the beginning of the service, but again they wanted me to come forward and do it again, maybe to just like further ingrain it. And that's kind of what I notice about a lot of these churches too, is that it doesn't matter how many times you come to the altar and give your life over to God, they feel like you still haven't done it, so you need to do it again. Anyways, so that's beside the point, but let's move forward. So as you know, like I said before, I was a troubled teen, and I was literally a prime candidate and target for this ministry to come and reach out to and invite me. And that's why I think they specifically go to areas where they can find, these types of people, and they go looking for them, and that's their form of evangelism. And they have a lot of different plays and live dramas and skits that they would perform in different auditoriums and large auditoriums across Los Angeles. And this is actually a worldwide ministry, so and it's still growing to this day as far as I know. And so I know that there's tons of different dramas, they call them, and plays that depict basically similar lifestyles. They've kind of evolved over the years and now try to include college and different types of people. They're becoming a little bit more inclusive, but in the beginning they were very just set on this very specific targeted group of individuals that they were trying to reach, and they still focus on that and they still preach on it and stuff like that. But it's like they have evolved in some sense. So I'm gonna leave that right there. So I was a minor. I was 16 years old at the time, so they really couldn't have me come into one of their homes, which they also have communal homes that are placed strategically in all different cities around the world as well. And they have these homes, but they're for people that are 18 and over. And obviously, I was 16, so I wasn't going to be going there. But they just tried their best to keep in touch with me as much as they could. Obviously, I didn't have a cell phone at the time. This was in the 90s. I did not have access to many phones or transportation at the time. So when I moved back with my grandparents, they were not really willing to drive me to those churches, but those people had my home phone number. And when I went back home, they made sure to continue to contact me and invite me. And because I had made such good friends with this one individual who her uncle was the youth director, pastor, I would go to her house frequently to hang out, and he would always obviously invite us and take us. So my grandparents didn't really know I was going to church. I had to lie about going to church because my grandparents did not want me to go to church. They actually, prior to this whole church situation, I had another friend that invited me to her church, like when I was like 16 as well. I remember being in my junior year of high school, and just going with her to her church was like a big ordeal. Like I had to lie to my grandparents because my grandparents said, "You're not going to a Christian church. If you're going to church, you're going to a Catholic church." And that was just like what they were saying. Well, my grandfather didn't care about church, but he didn't want me in church at all. And my grandma was just very adamant about the Catholic thing for some reason, even though she wasn't really practicing Catholic either. But they were very concerned, and they were like, it's like a cult. You know what I mean? Like they called it out immediately because that other church was also very Pentecostal, very very like getting you involved to the extent of where that became your life, basically. And so when they found out about this new church and stuff like that, they were just like, we're not doing this again. You know what I mean? So I literally would just tell my grandparents, I'm going to my friend's house, and then my friend's uncle would take us to church. And I mean, I would just show up and be like, I'm ready to go. And like, no questions were asked. It wasn't like, do you have your parents' permission for me to take you somewhere or anything like that. It was just like, she's here, we're taking her. And we just all jump in the car and go. And all the time, my grandparents were just thinking I was at my friend's house. They didn't know we were leaving her house to go to this church. And it was kind of funny because it was like, I mean, I was doing so many other really bad things prior. And on substances and things like that. But they were so concerned more with me going to church than going and doing some of the other crazy things I was doing. The partying that I was doing was completely out of control at that age. Like, as I look back now, like, I would have been so terrified if I had a child that was living the way that I was living at that time. And so I was really confused because I wanted to change my life around at the time, and I wanted to get out of the things that I was involved in and get away from the life that I was living. And I was trying very hard, and my grandparents were coming against me as I was trying to change. And I was like, do you guys just want me to go back to like running away and doing crazy stuff? Like, I mean, I'm just trying to go to church. That's all I'm trying to do. But I didn't see what they saw, which is that I was getting myself involved in something completely over my head. I had no idea what I was getting involved in, and they were trying to help me not get involved in that. And they were like, you don't have to go to this church to change those ways, basically.